It's Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here. Thanks for joining us on today's show. It is our final roster projection for your Seattle Seahawks before training camp. With camp just around the corner, what we're going to do is we're going to run through the entire 53-man roster, what I think it will look like for Seattle before the season officially begins. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started right away with the quarterback position. I think Seattle carries two quarterbacks on the active roster. Geno Smith is going to make the team. Crazy, right? Joined by Drew Lock. I think those two will hold things down at that quarterback position. And if there's an injury, then we can have that discussion later. But for now, at least, it's these two as your quarterbacks when the season begins. The backfield for Seattle, no real surprises here. I think they go with Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, DeeJay Dallas, and Kenny McIntosh. Nick Bellore also at the fullback spot, although Seattle doesn't tend to use him a whole lot. The fullback spot, he's there. He'll also play some linebacker from time to time as well. Then we move to the receiver position. This is when things get ultra competitive here as far as figuring out who makes it and doesn't. Metcalf, Lockett, Smith-Njigba are your three locks. But then everything else from there is pretty much an open competition to get the job done. When I look at D. Eskridge, I know that he hasn't put it all together at this point in his career. But it wasn't too long ago he was a second-round pick. And the reports that we've heard coming out of the offseason programs were that he looked really good. So I feel optimistic about Eskridge. Young, I like a lot as well. I think that he ends up making it, and that's the five receivers that we see the Seahawks carry at least to start the season at this point. So here's our pinned comment today. Name a player the Seahawks will cut from the final roster. Here's your chance to be a little bit critical here and tell me who is going to be a guy that ends up getting the boot when it's all said and done. Let me know in the comments section. Name a player who's not going to make it for the Seahawks, and let me know in the comments section below. Folks, want to make sure that not only you're subscribed to Seahawks Today, but also that you have your notifications on. That way, you're the first to know when something happens with your Seattle Seahawks, when they make a roster move, a trade, if there's an injury, free agency, whatever it may be. We're going to stop what we're doing, and we're going to bring you a video as quick as we possibly can. So not only should you subscribe to the channel, but also turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. And here's what I want to do. For everyone that spams gang in the comment section, that's part of what we call the Noti gang around here, I'm going to give a shout out on the show sometime next week. So go ahead and spam gang in the comment section. Show up and show out. We appreciate you, and thank you for being a part of what we're doing here on Seahawks Today. Let's go to the tight end position now. That's where we find Will Dissly, Noah Fant, and Colby Parkinson. Now, as far as their futures go beyond this year, that's another question. You're probably not going to keep Dissly and Fant both, but at least for this year, this is going to be the tight end room as is. Good tight ends, but not great. I think eventually Seattle would like to upgrade this position as far as that goes. To the offensive line, and that is where we find Charles Cross leading the way, Damian Lewis, Olu at the center spot. Going to be interesting to see how he and Evan Brown compete for that starting center position. Phil Haynes, Abe Lucas, Anthony Bradford, Stone, Jake, and Greg as well competing for playing time at those offensive tackle spots. Then we go to the defensive line, and this is where we find Jaron Reed, Dre'Mont Jones, Miles Adams, Cam Young, Mike Morris, and Mario Edwards Jr. Now, I must point out, there's a name you probably see missing on this list. That would be Brian Mone. I think with his injury and what we've been told in regards to his injury status, if I were to guess, granted I'm not a doctor, but just based on what we've been told, Mone's probably not going to be able to give it a go by the time the season begins. So I would think that he starts on some type of injury list of some sorts when the season starts. So he won't count towards that opening day 53-man roster. But I think it's going to be these six holding down the defensive line. We've heard from Pete Carroll say they would like to upgrade this spot, but based on what we know of the roster right now, I think it's these six at least for the time being. How would you grade the Seahawks roster in 2023? Put a grade on it and let me know. From top to bottom, what do you think of what the Seahawks bring to the table in 2023? Grade it for me, A, B, C, D, or F, and let me know what your grade would be for the Seahawks roster this season. Got a great deal that we're offering Seahawks fans right now. If you go to chatsports.com/Seahawks sale, we have this shirt combination. You get both shirts, both the short sleeve and the long sleeve. And, folks, it's a little hot right now, so you're probably leaning more towards the short sleeve. But trust me, you'll need that long sleeve eventually, too. You can get both shirts on sale for 30% off. Great combo, only at one place. Chatsports.com/Seahawks sale is where you can get yours today. That's chatsports.com/Seahawks sale. Only available for a limited time at 30% off. Get yours now. All supplies last. It's chatsports.com/Seahawks sale. The edge rushers. Now, for me, it's going to be very interesting when it comes to playing time because Uchenna Nwosu is definitely going to be leading the way. But after that, it's anyone's guess as far as who is going to be the next man up. Obviously, you look at Darrell Taylor coming off a season where he had 9+ sacks last year. But I'll tell you what, Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, those cats are hungry, okay? It's going to be very interesting to see what those guys do for playing time. Don't sleep on Tariq Smith either as far as that goes. To the inside linebacker position. Now, there's another name you may be noticing that's not on there. Jordan Brooks is not on this list. He, based on indications, does not look great as far as his progress goes of getting back on the football field. So for now, let's throw in Vi Jones, who was undrafted last year out of NC State. We'll put him on this list for now with Jordan Brooks out. Now, we hope to see Jordan Brooks back at some point this year, but based on just what we know now, we'll put Vi Jones there and Jordan Brooks on the injured list for the time being. Bobby Wagner, great to have him back. Devin Bush going to have a significant role. John Radigan as well. Nick Bellore, we mentioned earlier, also in that linebacker rotation. And one thing I'll say this. Here's a caveat. We're going with based on the players that are there. Obviously, we can't project trades and free agency and all that within a roster projection. But here's something I would keep in mind. If, as we're talking about, Jordan Brooks is not available when the season begins, this would be a position I would expect the Seahawks to be shopping around for, whether it's a trade or free agency, whether it's a backup for Devin Bush or if they feel like there's somebody out there that's better for Devin Bush to hold that spot till Jordan Brooks comes back. We'll see. But a lot of it depends on how long it takes for Jordan Brooks to get back on the football field. To the corner position, that's where we find, I think, one of the most exciting secondaries in all of football. When you talk about the cornerback room and the safety room, we'll get to the safety room here in just a minute. There's a lot of reason to be excited about this group, and they're all young. Tariq Woolen had an outstanding season, tying for the league lead in interceptions last year. Devin Witherspoon you took with the number 5 overall pick. Those guys are going to hold things down on the outside for a long time. I do have Tre Brown making the roster, and Tre Brown I think is better than what people think. Although it could be a situation similar to what Sidney Jones had last year where, look, decent player, there's just not enough room because you're so loaded everywhere else. Mike Jaxon, very curious to see how much playing time he gets with the addition of Devin Witherspoon trying to take his spot. And don't sleep on Kobe Bryant either. We talked about him on the channel earlier this week. Kobe Bryant probably going to play that nickelback spot. Had a really good rookie season last year with, 4 forced fumbles. So look out. This cornerback room going to be very, very good and a problem for opposing offenses. Name a player the Seahawks should keep on the 53-man roster, and don't tell me Geno Smith or Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf. Give me a guy that's borderline that we're not so sure if he's going to make it the roster or not. Let me know in the comments section. Name a player the Seahawks should keep on the 53-man roster when it's all said and done. A couple more for you here. Let's go to the safety position. Jamal Adams, all indications are he looks like that he should be ready to go for when the season begins. Quandre Diggs, Julian Love there. I think you're going to see a lot of 3-high safety techniques with these guys and getting creative. And Pete Carroll's always wanted to do that. Now he's got a real opportunity to do so. Jarek Reed showed some flashes in the offseason programs. The 6th-round pick out of New Mexico State. Watch out for him. And Joey Blount. I've always liked Joey Blount. I'm very intrigued to see what Joey Blount can potentially bring to the table as well. On special teams, we find Jason Myers and Michael Dixon, one of the best kicker and punter combos in the league. And then at long snapper, we talked about him earlier this week on the channel as well, Chris Stoll out of Penn State holding things down, the rookie who was the top long snapper in all of college football last year. So before we go, what will be the Seahawks record this season? There's our projections for the roster. Now, how will it all come together here this season? Let me know in the comment section. Predict what the Seahawks record will be this season. Hit me up on social media. Want to talk Seahawks football? I'm online there as well. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and more. At Tyler Jones Live. You can find me there. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.